Community members remain hopeful 1 year after an EF3 tornado mangled houses. It left a 2-mile-long path through St. Bernard Parish. Aerial footage 1 year ago shows some of the roofless homes. Video from this afternoon shows the progress. For the past year, the Arabi community has stayed strong.
And as Andres Fuentes reports, some scars from the storm still remain, but there are many signs of rebuilding.
Drone shots above Arabi show just how much the community has changed since an EF3 tornado ripped through a year ago. Vacant lots still pepper the neighborhood, but when we compared it to last year, there's no more torn up homes, scattered roofs, or piles of debris.
It was total destruction for anything it made contact with. Everything that thing touched, it absolutely devastated.
We took a walk down Friscoville Avenue with Parish Council member Gillis McCloskey. What used to be a church and some homes are now empty lots in the aftermath of the storm. The parish estimates 50 structures were destroyed, 90 received major damage, 160 had minor damage, and a total of 300 structures impacted.
But I'd never seen, the destruction path, that up close and personal. And
it's one of several scars the community has after the many hardships it's faced.
Tropical events, 2 tornadoes and COVID. That's what Arabi's been through in the last 8 years, right? It's been crazy.
It's the mix of homes that have been constructed in the aftermath of the storm and those that are still under repair that are giving people in this community hope that the St. Bernard Parish that they knew before the tornado is coming back strong.
Right? And to say that we have come as far as we have in only a year from that event, which was so incredibly devastating, I think is just remarkable.
McCloskey says that aid packages have helped families displaced by the tornado rebuild. And for business owner Linda Catalanato, the anniversary marks how much progress has been made since the storm's destruction.
Everything was upside down, furniture turned over, going out the windows. But the significant loss was the east wing of our building. About 1,600 feet was taken down to the ground.
She says her store lost $30,000 of merchandise. But since the store reopened in December, she's felt a need to serve her clients and community, especially after losing her husband weeks before the tornado and her mother and best friend months after.
So I work every day, 7 days a week, and love every minute of it. I love our customers. I love everything about the store.
People I spoke to said that they're also still grieving the loss of 2 people who died because of that tornado. 25-year-old Connor Lambert died when the storm leveled his home, and then 22-year-old Maria Celeste Burke died a week after the storm after suffering injuries when her house fell into the street. Now, parish leaders also say that some families are still going through insurance battles and some legal issues which are making the return back to St. Bernard Parish that much harder.